Before, Neil Curtin's my name, Chair of the Regional Transport Committee. My colleague Louise Parsons is a deputy for that committee. Good to see turnout from our TAs here, particularly Richard, great to see you here. Kate, Michael, who have got missing. Craig's not here, not with us yet, but he tells me he's going to tip up, so hopefully he comes. Look, we'll get underway. We've got Stuart White from a Māori committee representative, and he's going to lead us in the karakia, which is on the sheet in front of you. So if you can grab that, and Stuart, can you help us out there, please?
Kia ora, Chair. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Let's pray together the opening karakia here. Kia ora te marino. Kia ora te marino. Whakapapa paunamu te moana. Hei huarai mā tātou I te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Tātou ia tātou katoa. Hui e tāe kia.
Thanks very much, Stuart. And welcome to all in the cheap seats. Oh, the back seats, way back there. We've got. We'll start off just looking at a bit of housekeeping. I think we need to do a bit of that. You'll see the exits there. The usual drill. What is it? Run, get going, get fast, drop, cover and hold, something like that.
In an earthquake, drop, cover, hold. If the shaking is long or strong, when shaking subsides, leave the building through the nearest exits and proceed immediately toward Napier Hill along Dalton Street to Timber Park, continuing straight to Cameron Road. In evacuation, if the emergency alarm sounds, immediately evacuate the building through the nearest exit, proceed to the assembly area on the grass at the corner of Dalton and Vortia, which is out there. Emergency exits are clearly signed and wharupakus are down the hallway to your right.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Look, we've got a couple of presentations in the forum section of today's meeting, and we'll get those underway shortly. But in the first instance, any apologies, please. I think we've got two. I haven't got my running sheet, have I? Keith Price is being subbed out today, and here he is. Komatua from Wairoa is here. Welcome, Craig. Great to see you.
Thank you.
So we've got two apologies: Keith Price and David Murray from AA, and sorry,
Craig Daly.
Yeah.
Craig Daly.
Craig Daly seconded from AA.
Right. Okay. And a couple of absentees that may. I think they won't be far away, I'd suggest.
We've got a couple online as well.
Online, who have we got?
Lisa Faulkner, Sean McKinley, and
Jag.
Jag's here. Okay, alrighty. And we've got Napier City Council staff, Hastings District staff.
Online. Yep.
Thank you. And Guy Wellwood, you're here. Off the agenda, conflict of interest declarations. Are there any conflicts in the papers today? Wouldn't have thought so. We'll go to the minutes of the meeting 6th of March. I'll take those as read. Are there any amendments that people can see need to be, any adjustments?
I think there's a little one there. I see they had me as the alternative and Benita as, I think it's just the wording's wrong.
Way around the wrong way. Can we amend that for next time? Anything else in those that need Kate?
There's an item in there that said that the minutes from the last meeting would need to be presented today,
that's
but
right.
I think
Yes,
that was
you're quite correct.
incorrect. I just had some spelling errors and an extra sentence to go in my report. That was all.
Okay, alrighty. How do we deal with that?
I think that's been emailed through and Leanne's going to take care of that. She replied to your email.
Yeah, she just said she would take care of it. I didn't know what that meant.
Oh.
I assume it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's been circulated.
With those corrections.
Yep. So can I have a mover With those corrections, Councillor Parsons, seconded Councillor Taylor. Thank you. All those in favour will say aye. That's carried. We'll go now to the forum, and we've got two presenters today. The first up is the team from Transporting New Zealand. Can you come up to the front, please, and explain yourselves? Right, who have we got? Billy on the left and Lindsay, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Tell us the life story, please, before we start.
Awesome. So Transporting New Zealand, for anyone that's not aware, is the National Industry Association for road freight. So we've got a strong membership in Hawke's Bay, and it's our job to advocate for members to get progress on productivity, safety, and what was the other one?
Oh, just general efficiency and productivities around the network.
That's right. So we're really keen to engage more with council going forward, so please feel free to reach out to us offline. Today we're just going to touch briefly on two issues. One is a problematic level crossing at State Highway 51 Ellison Street, and the other is stock effluent. I'll pass over to Billy to go through the first slide.
Thank you. So just a little more background around us too. So Transport New Zealand's got 1,100 members around the country. The vast majority of those are road freight operators. Looking through our membership list, there are 67 companies that are primarily based in the Hawke's Bay. And as we just explained to the chair before, the Hawke's Bay region is represented by an unincorporated branch of Transporting New Zealand. So it ensures that we've got operator feedback coming directly to us. You'll also be familiar with Ian Emerson, who's an advisory group member, who's a life member of Transporting New Zealand, also sometimes referred to by its former name of the Road Transport Association. Please welcome questions throughout any presentations, and we have designed this to be short and sharp for today's purposes. So just to speak to advocacy concerns and hopefully a call to the committee for support on Ellison Street rail crossing safety improvements. This has been notified to us by members and also through our interaction with TrackSafe, the rail safety advocacy group around the short stacked crossing. It's Transporting New Zealand's submission. This has been some advocacy with our Chief Executive contacting New Zealand Transport Agency and the Council, including correspondence with the Mayor and the local MP, around addressing our concern around the short stack crossing presenting a risk when the short length of the crossing means that barrier arms could potentially cross and hit trucks, presenting a safety risk and also damaging the actual infrastructure itself, as has happened on one occasion, and potentially damaging freight or vehicles being transported. We understand, it's our contention, and this has been shared with NZTA and the Council, that could be effectively addressed by giving vehicles crossing that railway and turning left into Marine Parade. I apologise, it should also say, and right onto the state highway, the right of way. And it's our understanding that there has been discussion, a proposal with Napier City Council and NZTA that would involve necessary land acquisition as to enable the change in the structure or lane flow of that area. So we understand that there obviously be competing priorities, and I understand there's around 5 short stack crossings within the Napier area. We've asked KiwiRail for their risk assessment information. We understand that Ellison Street is reasonably up there in terms of the number of vehicle crossings, and so we'd just like to raise this with the committee. We're happy to, and we've been in touch with Richard Manning and shared some of the correspondence that we've had. We just encourage the support of the committee, and we'll be reaching out further to officials to see how we can progress this. But certainly just wanted to flag it and highlight that we have strong support from TrackSafe as another safety advocacy group from the local MP. And if there's any questions or comments on that particular issue, we'll be very happy to speak to those.
Great, thanks, Billy. there any questions around the table or any further discussion? Councillor Parsons?
Probably just a quick question. Do you have any stats of how much damage there has been near misses? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's where that young boy was injured too. Yeah.
So in terms of, we're aware anecdotally of one incident, two incidents, where there's been, the crossing has gone down over a vehicle and does cause damage to the crossing, understand, but also to the vehicle. In terms of the movement and risks, I can certainly share that information from KiwiRail with the committee afterwards if that would be of assistance, because KiwiRail does actually have a risk matrix where they assess the different risk considerations, if that would be assistance. Thank you.
Excellent.
Hi, Angela Hallett from Road Policing Manager. I meet regularly with Scott people at Napier Council, other councils, around risk roads, usually to do with death and serious injury. I just wonder what research has gone on about this, as far as prioritisation. So I know there's a limited amount of money, so obviously everyone wants to see a little bit of road fixed or made better, but where does this sit within the range of I guess, risk intersections or crossings?
Yeah, well, from the KiwiRail information that I'll be able to provide to the committee, it has the highest number of crossings, and depending on, KiwiRail uses a wide range of metrics to assess risk. I think it's depending on the likelihood of an event occurring compared to the severity of an event. We're aware there's been comments made by KiwiRail that there are some risk factors, particularly around the high number of heavy vehicles that use that particular crossing, and the fact that there's some complexity to how that short stack crossing works compared to others. But I'm certainly very happy to share that because we have made those inquiries to KiwiRail, and we think that the risk assessment compared to those other Lever Street, Hastings Street, Owen Street, for example, means that it should be the Napier priority.
Great, thank you. There's a lot of moving parts in that particular intersection that, and I don't know if Richard has got sufficient line of sight on it, but obviously Napier City are a key player. NZTA, there's a lot of KiwiRail, there's a lot of action around that point. I certainly don't have a big picture of what that looks like. But in the committee's hands, though, is it something we should pull a paper back to us, to the council, to this committee, sort of detailing what the issues are and if there's anything that this committee can add to the equation? Are there any thoughts on the next steps?
Through the chair.
Yeah,
we are aware of the situation. It's been ongoing for a very long time, and from what I understand, Napier City Council has been working with NZTA for a while now, and we're just about coming up with the right solution, really.
Mm-hmm. We do.
Through you, I think. Parties will be committee as part of our RLTP program.
Okay, the suggestion is that we pull together commentary from all the affected players and perhaps present a bit of a summary at the next committee meeting. Councillor Taylor.
It would be interesting to know what else it's obviously a problem along the stretch of Napier, but it'd be interesting to know if it's actually wider, into CHB or Hastings or what.
Any thoughts on that? Is it a generic problem or specific?
Through you, Chair, KiwiRail are a member of this committee. It would be interesting to hear their views directly. And so I'm suggesting that we get the members of the committee together and as part of the RLT program development, we can raise this as an item.
Is it a RLTP issue?
It needs to be considered as part of the RLT program that we develop.
Okay, all right. Are we happy with that we sort of table it as a part of that process and perhaps bring a specific summary
Yep,
actions around it. So,
Can I just, through you, Chair, just make a point, and I don't know if it's a question or a point. Has the situation got worse with the traffic, the trucks coming off the Marine Parade? Because they would have had to be redirected up there, wouldn't they? From George's Drive?
It'd only be in the direction going east, I guess, onto State Highway 51. That there's the issue with the short distance between the railway track and the giveaway. That's the issue. I think it's 16 metres, and most big trucks are 20 to 23 metres, so that's the issue.
Mr. Chair, if it assists the committee, perhaps rather than the short presentation, if we were to prepare a paper that can include a chronology of the correspondence that we've had with different parties, reach out to the other groups that we've engaged with, including TrackSafe, and if that would be of assistance to the committee to give you a clearer picture of this particular issue, because we understand certainly there's a number of groups involved, and I think there's certainly a willingness and goodwill on all sides.
let's do that. Let's get your people to talk to our people and then we'll put it review.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hey, look, thank you very much for coming along. It is a significant issue. I go through that intersection every day. I know what it looks like. So I'm sure there's a solution out there somewhere. But it is a conversation, about four or more parties that need to, get in a room and thrash it out.
We just speak very briefly to the second point.
Yeah, that's right. You've got your waste.
Phil, so just wanted to talk briefly about the issue of stock effluent disposal. As many of you will be aware, it is a major issue for livestock operators, for the general public in terms of the effect on the environment and that kind of thing. So it requires, cooperation from partners, including councils, NZTA, meat processors, to solve. You may be aware that there's 19 new disposal facilities planned around the country in the current and the next 3 NLTPs, including one at State Highway 2 Evandon Road. And we would really appreciate an update from the committee on that particular site, as we're a little bit unclear on kind of where it's at. Anything else you want to add, Billy?
Thank you. And already we've had good engagement from officials, so thanks very much, Richard. It is just one of those issues where there's the issue with it, I think, is that, again, it sits between NZTA and council in terms of responsibilities. So I think it's just seeking support from the committee should we need to reach out to officials for further updates, for example, and we understand that there might be some further information that Richard might be able to share with us after this meeting in terms of an update on Evandon Road, for example.
Any comment from the team?
Through the chair, we can discuss that after the meeting.
Right. Thank you very much.
No questions from the floor?
I just have a really basic question. In my world, I'm aware there's a heavy motor vehicle kind of forum that meets Hawke's Bay to Rafferty. I've been to them a couple of times. I don't know whether they're forums that you've been to around these issues or...
Are you referring to the freight forums that NZTA run?
Yeah.
Yep. There hasn't been one for a while, actually, but we do attend those. And this is definitely something that does come up. Any other questions?
There being no other questions, thank you so much for your coming along and talking to us. That two everyday issues that affect our lives, particularly if you're running behind a stock truck that's sort of dribbling out at you.
Oh, exactly. Yep.
Good.
Thank you very much, committee members, advisory members.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, as well, guys.
Now we've got James. We've got the Hawke's Bay Forestry Group. A big contingent. Let's have you.
So thanks for this opportunity today. So I'll make an introduction to the Hawke's Bay Forestry Group and who we are and what we do. So the group has 13 member companies, and you'll see them here, and Hawke's Bay Regional Council is one of the member companies, being eligible as a forest owner itself. And we've existed since the early 2000s. But prior to that, we've had a sort of collective engagement around environment that goes back into the early 90s. So I'll introduce our chair, Matt Doyle, our Secretary Treasurer, Bruce Gertis.
Good morning.
And James Drummond from PAMPAC.
Yep.
So our recent set of projects around environment, I guess just to give you a sense of what we do collectively, as an entity, we get to attract and fund internally a range of environmental projects, and that's the core of what we do together. So we collaborate with community and amongst ourselves and bring our younger people particularly into project activity that's going to support a better way forward for the industry. Notably, just amongst this list here, after Gabrielle, we did a woody debris survey to look at the makeup of the woody debris that was distributed in the streams and on beaches around Hawke's Bay. Following on from that, building roads from woody material, that was the silver lining of the process. And then notably Kotahi land use study, which involves Hawke's Bay Regional Council. This is a study of two catchments, farming and forestry, that's run since the early 90s and coming up to a second rotation harvest event. We also have activity around people, workforce and policy and advocacy around the core activity around environmental integrity. And a couple of examples of these that we're working on together, working on kakavik genetics, because that species occurs within a number of our forest areas and just deserves our attention. It's also one of the rare, threatened and endangered species relating to forest stewardship. And the shredded wood roads. So this essentially gives us the chance to shred wood that would otherwise be waste and apply it as roading pavement. So we've got an ongoing study there with Forest Growers Research, and we've got a young engineer working on a master's around this topic. So I'll hand to Bruce now. He'll do the hard numbers part of the presentation.
Thanks, James. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to provide a bit of an overview in terms of the Hawke's Bay regional wood flows and just some points from the Hawke's Bay Forestry Group in terms of numbers, I guess. So MPI carried out a bit of a wood availability work previously, and there was a number of scenarios. This one just represents in cubic metres, or conversely you could use tonnes, how much volume's available going forward. It's been smoothed out. There's likely to be peaks and troughs based on markets and age class, etc. But if we think of this going on from the end of this decade, the available wood's about 3 million tonnes per annum. So that equates to about 100,000 load of truck movements per day. So it's not a small freight task. Yeah. So that's just to give you a bit of context. So there is a fair bit of wood out there, and moving it is a large part of the industry. This is a couple of maps showing two different time periods. The one on your left is 26, 27, and then 28 and 29. I guess the important things to pull from these maps is the red lines are showing more volume, higher volumes, and you can also see where the different forests are located within the Hawke's Bay. In summary, heading north up State Highway 2, we've got a lot of volume there. The forest industry, a lot of companies have their forests, State Highway 5, and then you've also got the Napier Taihape Road, and also further south down to State Highway 50. So what we're seeing that even between these two time periods, we can see that there is a little bit of movement in terms of the detail, but our big arteries are State Highway 2 and 5. And obviously running through town to the port, which picks up a lot of that volume. So just a few key issues for forestry. So in terms of heavy vehicles, 50 max plus right up to 58 tonne trucks are used where possible. We require roading infrastructure to capture those supply chain efficiency. And obviously there's a bit of a balance there in terms of bridge limits and money available to build bridges. But we see real benefits in reducing the amount of trucks on the road for everybody, and it also benefits the forest industry in terms of efficiency. One thing that we don't want to forget about is moving heavy machinery around the region. The forest industry's moved to more a mechanised form of harvesting, and this requires bigger machines, and this is getting guys off chainsaws and getting them into machines. A result of that is that we have to put those guys in machines. These are getting bigger, more productive, but they also need to be moved around the region as the harvest changes from location to location. Again, our busiest state highway for us is State Highway 2, and we also see it as our riskiest. Obviously, it's not the most robust. It's a difficult highway. It's very fragile, and we're interested to see what the plans are to future-proof State Highway 2. I think that's massively important for everybody. And all this comes back to us being competitive in terms of a supply chain. I personally work for PAMPAC, and we receive a lot of volume each year, but our forest companies also supply other customers in the export market as well, so it's critical. Just on our customers and community, those bottlenecks have a real impact on the freight tasks. We certainly saw that post-Gabrielle. We were fortunate at PAMPAC that, well, not fortunate, but the mill fell over as well. If State Highway 2 had gone down, we would be struggling to access the wood we require to keep the mills going. Again, the second point's about if we can increase the weight of the trucks, there'll be fewer trucks on the road, and we see that as a win. Again, East Coast Lumber, Pellet Company, Kiwi Lumber, Tumu, Napier Pine, PAMPAC, all of these are dependent on reliant and consistent supply to their mills. So one of the things is ongoing timely maintenance to the network is essential, and we've certainly got a lot of pressure on our drivers. They work long hours and they work in some tough conditions. We're seeing them under pressure, and obviously well-maintained roads is good for everybody, but especially those guys out there doing the hard yards. I think we should recognise the positives that have happened, and the convoying opportunities that have worked in the past have been really useful for us to plan ahead. The State Highway 2 work around Devil's Elbow was really well communicated, and once we're tapped into the right people, we're getting good engagement. So that good communication in advance and the ability for us to feed back our requirements and plan accordingly is really good. So we really want to promote that and push that up going forward. We're here to support, and we'd like to be at the table. So both Hawke's Bay Forestry Group and Forest Company would like some representatives. We don't know what that would look like. Is it about us feeding in standard templates about where we're going to be harvested and to what harvesting and to what levels? Could we become on the advisory group, or there are some other means in terms of getting in on the table and having a voice for the forest industry, given it's such a big industry within the Hawke's Bay region. I think that's it. Yeah. Any questions?
Great, thanks very much, and you've obviously there's a lot of touch points there that we can pursue. But are there any questions from the table that raise? Councillor Parsons?
I have a question, and forgive me, I'm new on this committee, so maybe other people know this. You just mentioned the project about woody debris and the survey you did after Cyclone Gabrielle. I'd be kind of keen to see what you discovered. But do you do anything prior to reduce the woody debris? Is that part of the project?
Sure. So ongoingly, there's a need for us to handle woody debris away from risky areas within the forest, and so we're always none of us wants a drama with woody debris and water. And also there's the National Environmental Standards for Commercial Forestry, which specify secure placement of that and also removal of excess woody debris from risky sites. So we're always working to manage that and to utilise woody debris is kind of the key to that as well. So that's why the woody shredded roads, we're calling them, are part of that.
Yeah.
But it's also about how we utilise the wood for potential biomass. So we've got a project that was on the board there, which is between the Hawke's Bay Forestry Group and ECA, which was to look at the available supply of wood that's not merchantable to sawmill or to port, and how can we allocate that to a wood burning user should they appear and want to purchase. So I guess running against that was the news about McCain's and Watties. They were kind of on our board of hopeful users of wood waste for heat, but we're continuing to engage with industries that might benefit from the use of wood as a biomass feedstock. So we're always looking. I guess we're all motivated by some similar things that concern the public around wood. So,
and I probably asked the question because I think there was a bit of misinformation after the cyclone as to what the wood was, and a lot of blame went to forestry, whereas there is a lot of natives that were discovered. So I'd be quite keen to see the results of that.
The study's on our website, which is hawkesbayforestryGroup.org.nz, and if you look at reports and projects, you'll find that study. Essentially, in the public mind, every piece of wood on a beach or on a stream is negligent harvest, but in actual fact, what we divined through the process of studying each of the affected rivers and categorising that wood, we had a third party to say what the wood origin was, and the results are quite surprising, I think, to the public view. But it's about how the media polarises a worldview of these things when they happen.
Absolutely.
And it's up to us to set the scene in the years preceding an event rather than try and rescue public opinion after we have it. No one's listening at that point. Everyone's traumatised. So we've got a better job to do around all of that as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Linda, would you like to comment, please?
Linda Stewart, New Zealand Transport Agency. Thank you very much for your presentation. Also, thank you very much for the feedback on Trek and the work on the Devil's Elbow. And just want to acknowledge the extent of the work that we have had underway on State Highway 2 and State Highway 5 for what feels like a number of years now, and really do appreciate your engagement and take on board the comments that sometimes it's quite hard to find the right people, but once you get the right people, we can work together pretty constructively. So keen to continue to build on that. Just note some of the data and insights that you touched on there, but also it sounds like you have behind the scenes would be really valuable. We're just about kicking off the Napier Hastings Strategic Network plan that looks at the form, function and future requirements of the roading network right across the cities and districts, but particularly looking at the impacts of growth in vehicle movements and road use on State Highway 2 and 5 and flow into the ports. So it'd be really good if you've got, sounds like you do, more data, and especially if there's increasing volume flows over particular time periods in and out. It could be really, really useful to support our strategic planning. So perhaps that's something that we could pick up offline.
Entirely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It would probably be useful for us. We can tap into that with our members, but if we have, there's some template or format that you want to receive that, and then we can actually gather that information for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I might get shortly Russell to see how we draw all of this together, but I've just got a question in regard to, sorry, Kate, I was going to come to you. Can I ask this question?
Yeah.
I'll come to you. I just was interested in your map and membership and extent, if you like, and can you give us a sense of what goes north, what's your membership north and south, and the potential impact on Wairoa, Central Hawke's Bay? Does your data tell you what the volumes look like coming in from those farther reaches of those corridors?
The majority of our membership would be further north compared to Central Hawke's Bay. There is a proportion Central Hawke's Bay, but around that Wairoa area, there's a lot of management between Pambeck and other companies there that is that Wairoa heavy area.
Pull the map up.
And that means to what Bruce is saying, our key lifeline there is that State Highway 2 road of north of Napier to Wairoa.
So you go through, say, to the Whoraratas north, or?
Yeah, so our membership goes up to the HBRC boundary effectively.
And up the Lake Road, is there anything up there?
Yep. There's
Tinoroto?
There's volume up the Lake Road, Tinoroto Road. I mean, that's a lot of that heads north from the Tinoroto Road. The Whoraratas would go north to Gisborne from around about Wairoa's probably about the split between north and south volume, but from Wairoa south to Napier comes south on that State Highway 2 road.
Obviously, there's from the committee's perspective, you've got your local roads, the state highway, so we've got a lot of sort of stakeholders sort of involved. But Kate, you had a question.
You've stolen my thunder a wee bit. I'm Kate Taylor from Central Hawke's Bay District Council, so I was intrigued by Central Hawke's Bay not being visible on your Scion map at all. And a large portion, we did a multi-million-dollar PGF funding project to make Route 52 and the Waipokoro-Parongaho road more resilient for HPMB, mostly because of the amount of logging that was going to be coming out of that area and through out of Tararua, and certainly a lot of planting in Central Hawke's Bay in the last few years. So I just wondered if that map would look any different in 10 to 15 years' time when that volume of wood is starting to pour out of Central Hawke's Bay and Tararua.
Oh, I would think so, because we're talking about those maps with short-term timeframes. What we'd do would be to look out further, but because you're right, there is ongoing plantings, whether that's commercial harvester plantings or versus carbon, we'd need to understand that.
Yeah, they're both.
Yeah, but obviously Earnslaw's got a big presence in terms of using that Route 52, so that would come in. I understand they're all dealing with their wind throw on the west coast, so they'll be back. Yeah. So I think we'd need to look further out. Yeah.
A lot of the CHB forests are younger. There is some older harvesting happening down there, but not to the same level as the other around Wairoa and whatnot. Yeah. But those younger forests, the next 20 to 30 years, a good proportion of that will come on stream.
Yeah, there's a good number of Pampak ones down there.
Yeah, there's also a lot of private resource out there, on people's farms or private investor blocks. There may only be 10, 15 hectares or even less, where farmers have gone out and planted these for us to, for their retirement or for whatever. So, getting an idea of those as well is important, because they need to be harvested at some stage as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I will get Russell to comment. Obviously, we've got significant implications around, things as simple as passing lanes or impact of heavy vehicles on local roads. It is significant. How does that feed in, Russell, to the long-term plan? How do we make sure we capture this?
So through the Chair, the actual next paper we're going to look at actually delves into how do we take all this input to help develop the Regional Land Transport Plan. So right at the moment, each one of the councils is developing their activity management plans, and for instance, we would then go take this information, for instance, from Transport New Zealand about Allison Street and say, is that project in the Napier Activity Management Plan? Also beside that is the State Highway Improvement Plan program, which also captures all those projects. So all those plans come into NZTA by the 28th of August. But in the meantime, we're carrying on, and the paper says this, talking to the industry, the heavy freight industry, for instance, to gather this information so that we can test some of the activity management plan ideas actually make some questions, have you considered this in there? So, Richard, do you want to add anything more to that?
Sorry, thanks, Russell. And through the chair again, stole my thunder a little bit on the next paper, but that's okay. The only thing I would add is, as Russell's highlighted, so the activity management plans for the respective TAs is probably one of the most helpful places to engage. So that's where they actually plan the investment in their local roading network and seek funding assistance rates from NZTA. So they'll be actively developing those AMPs now, so the 4 territorial authorities within our region, and they're due to be submitted to NZTA on the 28th of August, as Russell highlighted. So certainly I can, outside of after the meeting, I can help to put you in contact with the key people in the TAs to talk to about that. So,
Thanks.
Well, look, thank you very much for coming in, James and Co. There is one question I need to ask on behalf of Mr. Wellwood. Where does rail fit into the plan? I mean, is the industry looking at rail as an alternative to get product to
Sure, it's not expressed here, but there is rail coming in from outside the region and to the south. There was rail being used from Wairoa into Napier Port until Cyclone Gabrielle. That had been rejuvenated, and there was a train a week, I think, coming with logs from Wairoa at that point up until Cyclone Gabrielle.
Yep.
So sadly, we're unlikely to see a train ever come from Wairoa to Napier again, is my understanding. But rail certainly is used from the south into Hawke's Bay currently.
Where it fits, where it works, it's a tool that companies will use around the country. The margins are quite tight between rail and road, but if it's available, it's a good use. But the rail north is obviously not much use to us at the moment.
All right, look, thank you so much for coming in, and we'll make sure we keep in touch, make sure we get that feedback into the long-term planning
Could I just ask a couple of questions? First of all, you mentioned convoy system for transporting. How does that actually work? Convoy of trucks, is it?
So it worked when State Highway 2 was having overnight closures. So most of our forest activity starts around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So when there was overnight closures, we weren't able to get onto the road till the road was open, which was around 5. So we were just sort of losing that first part of the day. But with good comms through Trek, we're able to find us a convoy window that allowed trucks through between 3 and 4 a.m. Log trucks and the crews. And then by the time they had got through that convoy window, they were able to come get back loaded before the road was open, after the road was open. So it sort of didn't disrupt our working window.
So there's no proposal to carry that on then? That was while there was work management going on? Yeah,
as well. There was overnight closures. There was sort of no safe way to get trucks or transport through while they were doing the resealing of Devil's Elbow was the main reason.
Just another one on the background. You supplied the supply of logs that's going to be over the next coming period. What percentage of that actually is orientated to Whirinaki Mill?
Locally out of the Hawke's Bay, Whirinaki Mill takes, there's a sawmill and the pulp mill. So out of, let's say if it was 3 million per annum out of the Hawke's Bay, probably 1 million of that, 800 to, 800,000.
So about a third, yep.
Yeah, just under, I'd say. Yep.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming along, and good to hear from you, raising some very important issues for us. So,
thanks for the opportunity. Cheers.
So, folks, I'm just looking for someone to receive and note the presentations. Thank you, Michael. Seconded, thanks, Richard. All those in favour will say aye. Those against will say no. That's carried. We move on to agenda item 5.1, and we're talking about the Traffic Activity Management Plan and Regional Land Transport Development Update. Who's doing that, Richard?
Me. Through the chair, thank you. So first off, I'll take the paper as read by all parties here. So this paper basically just provides as with at the previous committee, a brief update on progress with the transport activity management plans being developed by the Territorial Authorities, the TAs within the region, and also just a short update on development of the Regional Land Transport Plan, which is the responsibility of this council, the Regional Council. So I won't go into too much detail here, but we've got a short update from the respective councils there, so respective TAs. As Russell kind of highlighted earlier in the previous presentation, the key deadline with the transport AMPs is the 28th of August, which is when they're due to be submitted to NZTA, which is 3 months away, and which is very helpful. So the officials from each of the TAs will be actively developing those plans currently, talking with their local stakeholders and their contractors to develop the level of investment required within their local roading network and other transport activities. The reason why I'm interested in the transport activity management plans is because they're a key input into the Regional Land Transport Plan, which is my responsibility as the advisor here at the Regional Council. And to give a brief update on RLTP development, in the last 3 months, we have revised the strategic front end of the RLTP. So this round, we are doing a high-level review of the RLTP rather than a complete refresh. So we've gone through and reviewed the objectives and policies which make up RLTP and focused on simplifying those and ensuring alignment with the government policy on land transport. So that's all been progressed, and I won't go into too much detail. Yeah, as I said, I'll take the paper as read. No major changes, mainly just distilling it down and making it clearer and more concise for parties. The other point I will make is in terms of next steps with the RLTP. So with the AMPs being submitted to NZTA on the end of August, we will then convene the technical advisory group again, which is made up of officials from the TAs and other representatives on this committee, where we will look to prioritise the capital program, so the State Highway Investment Program, and the major capital works and AMPs. And following that process, we'll bring another paper in December to this committee, which will provide a summary of that prioritisation, which will feed into the RLTP. So that's really kind of the key input into the RLTP, which is that prioritisation of that capital program. Just looking back at the current RLTP, one of the major works in there was, I believe, some significant investment on the state highway network. So that's kind of how that will work going forward. The other point to add on this paper, just the final point, while I've got the attention of the committee, is just a brief, and this was raised as part of the last committee meeting, is just a brief high-level overview of the consultation process we'll run as part of the RLTP development. So there's obviously the formal consultation process, which is required under the Land Transport Management Act, which is consistent with the consultation requirements in the Local Government Act, which councils follow. So we'll be undertaking formal consultation in March 27 on the RLTP, 4-week consultation process, and following that public consultation process, we'll also be running hearings by this committee. So members of this committee will run public hearings in May 27, where interested submitters can actually speak directly to the committee on their submissions. And following a question from this committee regarding kind of the more informal grassroots consultation that we undertake. So I've provided just a high-level overview of some of the stakeholders that we will engage with as part of RLTP development. So I won't go through the full list here. As parties can read that list. But yeah, that's really the update on activity management plan development and RLTP development.
Great. Look, thanks for that, Richard. I'll just preface this, if you don't mind, Kate. So what we've got in front of us is, if you like, the framework for taking the plan forward, and you'll see that the shift of those objectives down from 5 to 3. So we've got the new framework, if you like, the pillars that we're working under: resilience and security, public transport and the environment, and healthy and safe people. So that's the distillation of the plan. That's how it's going to frame up. So all of our various topics need to fit with under that framework, and then it's been outlined. There's an outline there of the elements that go into constructing the plan around that. Are there is there a degree of comfort around the way that's structured? Does it make sense to you folk that have to sit around the table and absorb that and make suggestions? Is there any alternate that you might see? And also, if you can give some thought to the engagement approach, I think there's room for some additions there that you may want to think about. So is there any comment, firstly, on the structure that we're going forward with, and secondly, the consultation we need to undertake? Councillor Parsons.
Can I just ask a quick clarification question first, and then I'll make a comment, if that's okay? 10.1 and 2, it's moving away from mode shift, vehicle kilometres travelled, reduction in broad active transport expansion, towards road maintenance, resilience and freight efficiency. Can you explain what that means, please?
Absolutely, more than happy to. So again, through the chair, so the points in at paragraph 10 within the paper reflect the shift from GPS, the government policy statement on land transport 2018 and GPS 2021 to the government policy statement on land transport 2024. So what we saw, and just to kind of step back a bit too, so the GPS is kind of our guiding document for transport investment within the region, and also nationally. So that's a document that's published by the Minister of Transport every 3 years, and that really sets the scene for where NZTA can invest its dollars from the National Land Transport Fund. So NZTA holds responsibility for taking decisions on making major funding decisions within the NLTF. We as the councils and also the territorial authorities are responsible for applying for funding through the FAR rates to NZTA. And NZTA, so the board chair of NZTA has a list of activity classes where they can fund. So activity classes are basically things like maintenance and renewals, pothole prevention, obviously state highway improvements, which is our RONS program, or the RONS that we have in Hawke's Bay, state highway maintenance, walking and cycling. Previously there was a rail network activity class, which the previous administration funded Key Rail's rail network investment through. That was disestablished through GPS 24, so just reflected that change in national priorities. And again, the points that I've made, which are moving away from the likes of mode shift, VKT reduction programs, and broader active transport expansion, reflect kind of the main priorities through GPS's 2018 and 21. But GPS 24 was very much heavily focused on things like, as I said, road maintenance, resilience, freight efficiency, and obviously delivering of the Crown's 17 RONs. So as the major funding partner, NZTA is the major funding partner, we really need to ensure that our plan also aligns with the direction we're getting from central government in Wellington.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks, Richard.
Do you want me to make my comment now, or do you want to ask a question?
I just want to just sort of come back to that, but I wouldn't mind taking Kate because I should have taken the call earlier.
No, you're right. I had two, just the prioritisation when it comes back to us in December, obviously reliant on what that new GPS says, but will it look much the same as what it did when we were presented the last RLTP? Will that prioritisation system or process be much the same?
Correct. That's absolutely right. So we revised the investment logic map, which is the basis for the prioritisation back in January and February. Just distilled it down a little bit, similar to how we've distilled this down into the key points. But it will use the same factors for prioritisation. And what we are also planning to do. So as I said, the key thing is really the regional council requires is those activity management plans to understand the capital programs and also the state highway improvement program from NZTA to understand the major state highway improvement plans within their asset management programs. So what we will do as part of the RTC meeting in December, once we've received those, is actually take this committee through line by line through each of those items and how they've been prioritised, so that all parties are aware of how that process has worked.
Second question, if I may. Note 27, it talks about low cost, low risk being part of the investment program, and I thought this might be a question for Linda. I thought low cost, low risk had changed or gone, or?
Yeah, I can answer that. It's not gone, it's definitely still there, but the funding cap that used to apply at 2 million has been increased to 5 million to essentially cut down red tape and process, to empower local governments and RCAs to get a bit more certainty on their programme, and once that's signed off, you can go forth and build. That's good news.
Thank you. Before I come back to you, Councillor Parsons, Linda, I wonder if you could help us with, we're wanting to make sure we're aligned with the particular GPS settings. Do you think we are aligned in the structure? What's it look like from your comparison with other areas?
I have a couple of questions as well, but I might answer some of that in relation to Richard's comments to Councillor Parsons too. I just want to acknowledge some really good points made in the review of the RLTP, and particularly interested in, and it's really great to see on 27.4 the activities of inter-regional significance and cooperation across RTC. So CAPI team, it was good to see that. Also as well, just in the review of all strategic documents, we have recently released, yesterday I think it was, Arataki, the 30-year plan for the transport system. So do make sure that you bring that in, as it does give us a view to the future investment required across the network. We're operating in an environment where we're producing an NLTP for 27-30 in the absence of a government policy statement to inform that. We are waiting for advice from the Minister of Transport and MOT as to when that will be released. So I would just say that all of the RCAs and Hawke's Bay Regional Council officers are doing the very best they can without absolute certainty in what government priorities for investment are. Just as a note, the GPS in NZTA is required to give effect to, and you can only receive funding through the National Land Transport Fund for projects that align to that. So as RCAs, each individual council must comply for that. So you'll find that some of what your community want absolutely aligns with that. Other aspects it won't, and you will not be able to secure funding for those projects. Just one question that I had re the review of the RLTP and particularly priorities. Noting in the 24 GPS, one of the top 4 priorities for the government is value for money. And I just want to understand at the RTAG discussion just how prevalent that was in your thinking about making sure that all transport authorities are required to maximise revenue from the NLTF and ensure value for money, given the affordability constraints on both the NLTF, but also as well our RCA partners, our co-investment partners, local government. Can you comment on that? I couldn't pick up on it and I might have missed it.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you. Through the chair again. Certainly, we are aware of the strategic priorities for the GPS, value for money being one of the strategic priorities that the government set through the current GPS 24. Certainly, it's something that has been discussed at the tags by all of the members, and it's something that we'll be reminding all parties of in terms of those 4 strategic priorities as part of the process going forward.
Thank you. Just one comment on that, if I might, Chair. That's reassuring. I would just say, looking forward, there's no likely relief to the pressures that we're all under in terms of affordability. And my strong recommendation in response to your question, Chair, would be that component could do with being elevated. Thank you.
Okay, so value for money
good.
and affordability seen as a guiding light to the process over the next little bit. Craig.
It's just a point, I see why it's not included on there, but it's not that we have a private viewing with Linda and she gives us lots of money. It's that it's gone through council, our AMP, and so it's well and truly on track.
So this sits at this level. Is there any, if you like, the plan itself? Does it dive into specifics to the TA level? And
absolutely. So through the chair, it does provide a 10-year summary of local investment. So it really takes a high-level summary of all the activities that have been funded through the local level and summarises that at a regional level. Just one more point to note as well is that we're also working very closely with all the officers from the respective councils around this table. So we have a really good relationship with each of the officers who are developing the AMPs to understand how things are progressing. So
very good. So we're confident we've got good alignment at the local level and with the GPS as well, going up and down. And there's a level of comfort around the structure of the plan, the pillars in the plan. Any comment on the consultation approach? Have we got the settings right there? Any comment, Councillor Parsons?
Just to add that we did have a meeting with Hawke's Bay State Highway Issues, which is a Facebook page with 22,000, what would they be called? Members? Friends? Members. And that was the Axel Alexander, his real name's Tony. He started it after Cyclone Gabrielle because of the issues with the state highway. That's when I joined it. There were 4,000 members. Now there's 22,000. So I thought it was appropriate for him to maybe come and talk to this committee, which he's going to do at the next meeting. But I did bring him in to meet Russell and Richard, and Neil obviously was with me. Just for the credibility of the guy, because he is pretty random, but he is really, really good. He's basically eyes and ears on the road, and so you're getting really good information. So we thought it would be a great, and the comms team met us as well, and we thought it would be a really good vehicle, excuse the pun, to use in public consultation, because he can get out there and ask his members, what are you seeing, what input do you want? Plus we can use him the other way. So if there's information we want to get out to the public, we can use that vehicle as well. And probably you don't get to meet people like this all the time, but he doesn't need funding or want it. He does it out of the goodness of his heart as a public duty, if you like, which is really refreshing. I thought he wanted some funding, but I was blown away because he doesn't, so which is really lovely. So you'll get to meet him at the next meeting.
Great, all right. So a level of comfort there. If we've got any other ideas of how we might spread the good word around the plan, let's have them, because it is the thing we do every day, and we impact on everyone's lives, so they need to know that. Kate, did you want to?
Yeah, it may come it will come much further down the track, but the one thing, the feedback that we got the last RLTP consultation was that there was a whole lot of things in there that didn't actually, if you just wanted to quickly go to one thing, that it was really hard to just pick out one thing, and you had to go through each section to get to where they wanted to go. From memory, I can't remember exactly what. It might have been the commuter transport that we'd been pushing at the time. Just bear that in mind.
All right. Did you want to comment, Richard?
No, through the chair, thank you.
It's the other Richard.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm all good at this stage.
I think if you've got any ideas, I think we just need to be a bit more creative, or step the creativity around engagement up, and not particular. Well, I think we can do it also on the way through. I mean, we heard commentary today from stakeholders. There's no reason why we can't, on the way through, sort of gather some commentary or thoughts from stakeholders. Okay.
I'd just like to withdraw my former comment because it was the public transport plan, not the regional land transport plan that I was thinking of, so
okay.
apologies.
We'll get to that shortly. Okay. All right, we've done this pretty much to death. So can I have a mover to receive the report, please? And thank you, Craig. Thank you, Kate. Moved and seconded. All those in favour of receiving the report will say aye.
Aye.
Those against will say no. Let's move on to, what are we, 5.2 is, what is that? I have no idea what that is. Go.
Thank you, Chair. Again, through the Chair, this is really just a paper just summarising some recent legislative changes that come into effect in November. So, and it's really just for the committee's information. So basically last year there was a piece of legislation passed which made some changes to the Land Transport Management Act, which is called the Land Transport Management Time of Use Charging Amendment Act. Basically, the Amendment Act came out of an inquiry, a select committee inquiry which was run in 2021 into congestion in Auckland. And the Crown has moved forward on that inquiry and implemented these changes. So in November last year, this Amendment Act was passed, which effectively allows councils and road controlling authorities to implement time of use or congestion charging programs. I won't go into the detail around how the programs work and the like, but it's basically the key thing is that the actual legislation will come into effect in November. One point to note is that in the Amendment Act, it gave the Minister of Transport the power, if after 3 years no councils had implemented a time of use charging scheme, the power to actually implement a scheme within a particular region. The key point really from the paper to take away for our region is I think given we have quite limited congestion within our region, the focus is very much on the big urban centres, so the likes of Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch, and the likelihood of time of use charging or congestion schemes being implemented in those regions in the future. But yeah, it's really just kind of an FYI for the committee on recent legislative changes.
Thank you for that. I was on my way to work this morning. I had 3 cars in front of me at the light. Just appalled that I had to wait for so long to get through the lights. We're just receiving this report. It's nothing to do with us, really, is it? So, you got a question? Anyone questions? You moving it, Councillor?
Yes, happy to.
Okay. Seconded, Councillor. All those in favour of receiving the report say aye.
Aye.
We'll say no. Okay, now we're up to public transport, and this is going to challenge you all a little bit. So, Richard, what are we doing?
So I'm going to go and...
Sorry, Russell.
Mr Chair, I'm just going to sit at the front.
That's okay. Explain yourself, exactly.
Sorry, Mighty scooted to Waterwood today.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Thank you, committee. I have the, you have the report in front of you, and I'll take that as read and, of course, take any questions, but there's 3 key things I just wanted to point out. Over the last 4 months, we've undertaken a tender process for the Napier and Hastings bus network. The current provider had a 9-year contract which was extended for a further 2 years, and that comes to a conclusion on the 1st of August next year. So we've undertaken this tender process, and we have a preferred tenderer to start negotiations with. Where that takes us is to a point on the 24th of this month where we were presenting to Council a proposal to appoint that tenderer. So it will be after that date that we can formally announce who that tenderer will be. As I say, we have a preferred tenderer. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the final outcome. The second important point to note is around our total mobility scheme. So we have about 5,000 registered members of our total mobility scheme with several thousand regular users. This scheme has proven to become unaffordable in its current form from both a regional and a national level, and so the Ministry of Transport undertook a review including extensive consultation on what could be done to make this scheme more affordable. And the outcome of that was that on the 1st of July, the discount offered to total mobility riders, and this is across both taxis and some of the other providers like Driving This Daisy, users of that will only get a 65% instead of a 75% discount on their fare. And there's also a reduction in the total maximum fare that can be subsidised from $50 to $45. So that is a sort of a handbrake on any further growth of the scheme as a burden on our ratepayers and I guess on NZTA as well. So just to reassure the committee that there is an active communication program, so every single member of the scheme in the Napier Hastings Central Hawke's Bay will receive a letter or an email letting them know what the changes are. The agencies who represent those members are also well aware of the changes, as well as the taxi operators too. And there will be general media release at the same time. But that will have an impact on those users. But just a reminder to members that this scheme used to be a 50% discount up until about 2022. So the 75% discount was an uplift from that time. So we're not returning back to 50%, it's returning back to 65%. Now the third point I want to just note that there is a comment in there about school buses, and where that started was that we've had a conversation recently around Bayview school buses. There's an extreme amount of pressure down on that community to get their children to schools here in Napier in particular. And this last year, the Ministry has taken away funding, and it's caused a great deal of concern to that community. We had a meeting with Katie Nimmin, MP Katie Nimmin. She's obviously well aware of the issue. She's got a strong background, of course, in buses, and she has told us that there is a current Ministry of Education review of what and how the policy will be taken forward for the funding of school buses. That doesn't help Bayview now because it's already happened, but it does mean that several other proposals for the Napier and Hastings area are on hold, which would have affected the region's bus network. And there may be some commentary about that later. But just let you know that's in the limelight. There's only certain things we can do with that public transport system around catering specifically for school children at this time. So we only have a few small levers we can pull to assist, but where we can, within our framework of our regional public transport plan, we will try and do that. So those are the three key areas I want to pull out of that particular paper. But what I'd like to do now, with the Chair's grace, is just give you an update on where we are with marketing the new bus network. So without further ado, I'll make a start. So there are two phases of the bus network change. The first was when we made the change on the 25th of January. It's one of the biggest upheavals of our bus network that we've had for well over 15 years. So the first thing we wanted to do is make sure we took all our current users with us. And what we want, the essence of the campaign is no one is left behind. So we don't have anyone sitting on the side of the road waiting for a bus, especially a vulnerable person that doesn't turn up because they weren't aware that the changes were happening. We also had the challenge of transitioning My Way users who had a very personalised, almost door-to-door service in Hastings, to transition those into the new bus network that we'd put in place in the Hastings area. So some really big things we need to do around behaviour change. Making the change in summer is problematic from a communications viewpoint. So actually getting through to people to tell them about the change before the school term started was quite a challenge. And again, that community first. This is all about people in our community using the bus to get to where they need to go for very important reasons. So as we said, we really needed to prioritise communication into those networks. So the three strategic pillars was raise awareness, prepare our people, make sure that the front line, the drivers, the customer service, people within the other councils and all our supporters were armed with the information they needed to talk to customers about the change. And then it came down to putting the right information at the right place at the right time to build confidence in the new network. What our tactics were was really, what do the community need? They need to talk to real people. So we had our 2 paid ambassadors. We had 3 community champions. So we had people who are real users of the network who could actually talk and do that. Real people like me talking to people like you on the same wavelength. We were out and about with 40 plus community events that we attended over the 8 weeks of the campaign. And we had a very heavy digital presence across many media, including NetSurf and stuff. And of course we had on-the-ground distribution of timetables and posters everywhere we could stop. And those ambassadors I talked about were out and about making sure we had good visibility. So in reporting to that, what did that all mean? So our digital advertising campaign, you can see we had 709,000 impressions and reached 135,000 people. That generated 6,800 click-throughs, and you can see that we were out there at 170 different locations. So enormous reach. If you looked at that, each one of us probably saw one of those previous ads at least 5 to 6 times. So what were our key successes? So agile delivery. Very early on in the campaign, we certainly came across areas of the community who had been taken unaware about what the changes were going to be, what was coming up. So we did street corner meetings in certain areas like Arataki and Lunsden Road, especially over in Hastings there, to actually stop and listen to concerns and gather the information. And that was a joint Hastings District Council, Hawke's Bay Regional Council effort. We talked about the ambassador program having a very high presence, and that they were on the buses, they were talking to aged care homes, etc. Those champions, people who look like me, talking to people who look like them. And that digital engagement really worked too. One thing that we were pushed to do and was definitely the right thing to do, and thanks to the chair for giving us a push along, was the free fare incentive in the first week. Taking one of those barriers away, the fear of paying a fare and not getting where you want to go, removes a lot of the barriers for people to use public transport. And so that was well used and well appreciated. And quite a few people took buses for the very first time because of that particular effort. And of course we had the very fresh branding around better bus routes as well. I won't stand on the summary because I think I probably said a number of these things 3 times, but again, that whole thing of no one left behind. So there's no front page of the paper saying so-and-so's been left behind on the road in the rain, and that was one of our main objectives to get over. But cracking on, phase 2, now that we've got our current users on the bus, we didn't do any of this to not grow the network. So the next thing is to get new users on board, and particularly those who might currently be driving a car. So what we need to do in phase 2 is to change the behaviour, to make people stop and think, hey, I should try the bus instead. To do that, we need to make sure all the bus stops are in place. And of course, we had to make an offer, make a really compelling offer as to why people would get out of their car or choose an alternative way to get to work, being the bus. So how did we do that? So we take away the cost as a barrier to trial. So we firstly create that opportunity to try the bus. We make sure they've got the information to make a good decision, make sure there's no doubt left in their mind about where will I catch the bus and when will it go, and provide a good reason for change. And what better reason at the moment is the high cost of fuel. So save money on petrol and parking, try the bus. And we call it Make the Smart Swap. Our tactics were to start with the World Public Transport Day, so that was on a Friday. So Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we ran the buses for free and ran a campaign around that. And so the paper says in it quite clearly that we doubled the amount of patronage on those 3 days than we would normally carry on similar days. So we know people will try the bus given the right incentive. The next thing we do is we use direct mail. And when I meant direct mail, targeted mail. So any of you who are living in the Napier area, for instance, if you are living in West Shore and Ahuriri, this coming week you'll be getting this in your letterbox if you're 400 metres either side of your route. And inside is your timetable, your bus route, and 2 free coupons to try it. And that same campaign has run 2 weeks ago through Taradale, Green Meadows, Tamatea, and is currently running in Rainui. So this is a very relevant and well-proven overseas activity for marketing. We also didn't stop there. So over the last 2 weeks, we've been at local supermarkets, we've been at food banks, talking to people with a stand, with some of these to give away, to really highlight, and was really encouraging to be there to see people say, people told us they'd received these in their letterbox, they'd noticed it. That campaign timing, as I said, we've been going for several weeks now. We've started with Taradale, we're currently on Rainui, and next week Ahuriri West Shore. And we're also including an activation, as we call it, a visit to Napier Airport next Thursday, where the airport community will be invited to come in and see us and talk about catching the bus there as well. Just basically why do this? Well, it's actually proven results. So some of these numbers might appear low, but they actually mean a lot to public transport. So you can see that 2 to 5% of households will typically actually use the coupon and try the bus. And of those, 20 to 40% will actually become occasional or regular passengers. So this particular type of promotion is seen as one of the most effective ways to get people to try and continue using public transport. So that's why we do it. Thank you.
Great, thanks Russell, and some excellent work done by the team to put the campaign together. It's and you've demonstrated some really interesting results, great results. Big issue for Napier and Hastings particularly, around public transport, but also want to come to total mobility, Craig, so we'll park that for the moment. But have you got a comment, Michael, around this?
Question through you, Chair. I applaud your marketing, and I hope to catch the bus myself one day if I didn't operate on a just-in-time basis, but I will get there. So in terms of, you no doubt heard, I get lots of comments about empty buses driving around Havelock North and the cost, and it's quite a significant amount of comments. Is there any, and I note on the minutes from last time you said that it takes a while, for up to a year, for things to really get going. Is there a reprioritisation that could occur if a bus route just isn't working. Like us, a lot of people just don't want to catch a bus, to put resources to another area where perhaps may be needed.
Through the chair, absolutely. So every bus route typically has 18 months to prove itself. We have got so many competing interests for additional investment. For instance, I talked about the airport service. We cannot currently afford to run to the airport on a Sunday. So if we weren't successful in an area and we did some consultation and the feedback was, you know, perhaps you should put your money somewhere else, definitely, because there's just a lot of competition for the limited dollar we've got.
Sure, and through Chair, follow up, if that's right. So what would the timeline, would you think about 18 months? Do you
18 months is the typical international benchmark for that.
Yep.
If we will be making tweaks earlier than that, but not wholesale changes, like could happen.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair, just on that, we have considered the Havelock North bus routes quite carefully. And what we are always wanting to do is work very hand in hand with, or hand in glove with, the district councils. And the one thing district councils can absolutely do to encourage bus use is to have parking charges. And currently in Havelock North, of course, that is just added to the general rate that every resident pays, so that they don't pay for parking in Havelock North. It's a free commodity in Havelock North. Ostensibly, it feels free because you don't pay as you use, like you do in Hastings or Napier. And so that could be something that Hastings District Council could consider in terms of encouraging better use of land in Havelock North rather than car parks, or encouraging bus users.
Through Chair, we would have to obviously go through a process. I don't necessarily agree with you personally, but that's what the people of Havelock wanted. We pay an $80 targeted rate for that. We do police it very carefully with our, especially with our new car that goes round, which can get round faster. So, but I take your point, and I can take that back to our council if you wish.
Simply that increasing or encouraging bus use is not just a one thing; it's a multi-tool approach that we need to take.
I have a sense, though, that the drivers for bus patronage are significantly financial, and until we increase fuel costs up to $10 a litre, we'll continue.
That is one of the drivers, absolutely.
But Richard, any comments from Napier's end in terms of where we've got to? You and I travelled on had a little roadie on the bus.
Yes, certainly two sides of the bus that day.
Yeah.
I guess I applaud the council for making the changes, and to look to improve things. And I see, you know, you've got future stuff coming on board as well. And I think maybe one of the drivers might be when people actually work out how they can pay to get on the bus. And I think that'll make them feel a lot more comfortable when we sort of get further down that track as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Good. Russell.
Through the chair, probably two things I should mention, because they both will come together at the same time. One thing that's assured with the new bus contract starting 1 August next year is that we will see a new electric fleet replace the current older diesel buses, and at the same time we are on target to also replace the ticketing system with a system that will allow people to use their debit and credit cards, phones, etc. to pay. So that will remove that whole "where do I get a card" question.
Yes. Yep.
Very good.
Yep. Through you, Chair. So, in terms of obviously there's more bus movements around now. In terms of reports of health and safety, I have had some reports of people, this is there, saying that some of the buses are, they believe, exceeding more than 50 kilometres an hour in a 50k zone. So I've had reports of that as well. To what extent do you monitor that, or go back to the bus company, please?
through the chair, there's two really effective methods of doing that. Firstly, the bus company have e-roads on their buses, and so the manager gets alerts when they go over the speed limit, but also when they do any harsh braking or harsh cornering. We can also monitor bus speeds as well from the council's side. And so it is something that we take extremely seriously around health and safety. And so any reports like that, we can follow up independently of the bus company, but we know they've got systems in place.
Yep, so just follow-up question. So what statistics have you got about that? Is it a significant issue or?
No, we get very few complaints, but we do definitely follow them up. The other thing we do have is the CCTV on the buses, external and external. That's all recorded. That also records the speed of the bus at the time, at the location as well. So we can really follow evidence of how things are going. So it's taken very seriously, and we actually have penalties in our contract with the bus company for issues where there might be something persistent that we need to deal with.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Just through the chair, if I could make a comment, please, on the question. Firstly, Russell, just a commendation to your team with regard to your stakeholder engagement. Certainly, in the spaces that I work, there was extensive consultation with our whānau hapu marae across Hawke's Bay. So commendation there. I just have a question around, I know it's early days with regards to the new routes being pushed out, but I do see news reports constantly coming out from the bigger regions about what the percentage of increase in patronage across those sectors are, especially with the current fuel crisis. And have we got any data about I can see it's probably grown a little bit in the last couple of months, but are we tracking alongside other provinces or?
Through the chair, probably maybe not as strongly as some others. We're seeing stronger growth on the Napier-Hastings route, which is obviously the corridor most likely to increase with fuel prices because it just costs people. And even my sister-in-law has taken up catching the bus for that very reason from Napier to Hastings. Not so much on the smaller suburban routes, because obviously the relative cost of using your car just to go to the local supermarket is a lot smaller. So in general, yes it has, but we haven't seen this significant uplift that perhaps Auckland might have been in the media lately.
And just through the chair again, just an observation and some comments. So I'm really heavily involved in the Rangatahi space at the moment, and we've had some key findings out of that space, which maybe of use to this committee and to your team with regards to marketing. We've learned recently that our rangatahi aren't engaged in Facebook, for example. They're engaged in TikTok and Instagram, and that's a really important separation, because I know a lot of the marketing was done through Facebook. I went to a presentation yesterday where Frances Valentine, who's the co-founder of Mind Labs in New Zealand Media School, one of the front runners with regards to digital innovation in New Zealand, she shared with us in that presentation that 80% of people aged between 16 and 24 don't even read emails. So they're accessing their communication through WhatsApp and other things. And I just wanted to, I guess, comment here today that perhaps some broader marketing techniques around reaching that particular age group might help us increase our patronage on the services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Oh, Linda, please.
Just some comments, if now's an appropriate time.
Go if you like.
Thank you. Just some comments on your presentation, Russell. Just want to commend the approach to marketing. I know there'll be, and there always is, a high degree of scepticism as to appropriate use of time and money to do that, but just the stats and the returns on that, really, really great to see the approach and the innovative approach, and it being informed by data and evidence of what does work. Also, would be great to see the reports coming back through on redemption and any customer feedback as well. Also, too, just commendation on the commitment to running new services for an appropriate length of time to actually have a look at the degree of uptake. We hear all of the time about empty buses travelling around, and it's a really easy one to lean on. But I think we need to draw on the evidence that shows what patronage is like, and as well the time of day that patrons are using it to help us adapt the services, and as well the regional council's willingness to flex and use the funds appropriately on other routes if they are deemed to provide more value for money. I think too, for all of us, one of the key things under the GPS and the National Land Transport Fund is transport applies to all modes, not only roads. And we all have to make sure that we have a commitment for the communities right across the region to provide access for those that do want to use alternative modes, but as well maybe don't have a car or can't drive either. So yeah, CAPI, it's great to see it coming to fruition. And just lastly as well, just read the paper, I note point 17 on fare box. I probably would have gone a step further and just highlighted the regional council and as the PTA's performance on private share, which is a ministerial expectation through the GPS. So alongside changing the public transport network and changing the routes, the Regional Council has continued to meet its private share targets. It's actually 0.1% over, if I just highlight that, in Q3, which is no mean feat considering you've had free fares as well. So driving good behaviours and innovative approaches, just want to really highlight that. I'd also too just want to acknowledge that there is a safety benefit to people using public transport as well as health benefits as well. So thank you, team.
Great. Matt.
Yeah, again, just acknowledging your effort. It's pretty hard not to see that advertisement, which was great as well, and I've taken up using the bus as well, which was a few times as well. I guess just highlighting that, well, for me, a bus is getting A to B, but for my kids, when I told them I was catching the bus, my wife actually drove them in from home to here so they could catch the bus with me because they were that excited about going on the bus, which kind of defeated the purpose. But it highlighted its experience in them as well. So like we often see Napier and Hastings advertise around school holidays around the attractions as well. So I think for kids it is an attraction themselves. So highlighting that bus can be an experience along with going between the venues as well. And I guess highlighting about empty buses, we also see a lot of empty cars with one people in them going around the time, and some cars are almost as big as buses as well. So just making that point as well. Even from stats, I think it's about 3 people in a bus is all you need to offset the carbon emissions compared to taking a vehicle as well.
Right. So. Thanks, Matt. Look, we need to sort of rattle on here. I did want to have a comment, to ask the question around total mobility service provision in Wairoa, and whether in fact we're making progress in that regard.
Yes, through the chair. Later this month, we are travelling up to Wairoa to have a discussion about that with Age Concern, and that'll be the starting point. This will actually be around that community transport, community vans that was in the Regional Public Transport Plan that we've been talking to Central Hawke's Bay about. And this is the time when we actually need to talk to councils because there is a local funding requirement for that. There is currently no funding available for general community vans from NZTA at this stage. There is for total mobility, however.
Thank you for that. And it's an important point, I think, in our planning and thinking is that it's inevitable that Central Hawke's Bay, and Wairoa, not part of the current public transport component. It's inevitable that, though, we need to start thinking about that and really start in the plan to develop some thinking along that line. Total mobility, we need the folk in Wairoa and in the hinterland need that sort of accessibility. The other element in this paper is around the school bus services, which are a bloody shambles, and we need to get a big solution to that, and maybe we can play as a committee a role in advocating to council that we amalgamate the bus service. Terrible word, I know. Sorry, folks.
There's 2 sides of that bus again.
So the public transport dollars and the and the school bus service dollars, maybe we can make better sense of it by that mechanism. So that's an important paper, and I'd like to throw something in here for us all to think about and come back with ideas around, and that is, what do we do with this committee going forward? Where are we going to land? We've got important local issues that need to see the light of day, and we can't afford to lose those. So what is the structure that we would recommend as a committee to those thinking about our future? How do we submit into that process? Craig.
Just one other thing with that now, the voting rights around the table, how does that affect this committee?
Committee. Sorry, through you, Chair. It's a statutory committee, and that is set in legislation about who can sit and who has a vote already. That has not been amended.
Good point, though, around that.
I think that's probably the next step they'll take.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right.
You're looking for 2 votes, Craig? You're looking for 2 votes?
Yeah. So we haven't really traversed the school scenario. Do you want to, Councillor Parsons?
I wouldn't mind making a comment about I don't know if that was a way to say no. We couldn't get any help for the Bayview school bus problem.
Through the chair, it's not a no at the moment. It just, I think, Councillor Fowler pointed out that if there's a call on resources, are we running the buses in the right place, and what could we do more for Bayview? But I think at our meeting we talked about, can we get the current bus timing right? Is it going to the right locations? What more could we do? So it's definitely not a no.
Okay, now that's good. Can I just then add, when you're still considering this, is because you sit at this table and you're trying to balance everything with safety, with emissions, with users for public transport. And, the next paper that will be coming up is about RoadSafe, and, it's the youngsters that are quite dangerous on our roads, and they're the ones getting harmed. And so by not giving this, what it deserves, we're going to have 100 more kids on the road going to schools in cars, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to put more people on roads and more young people. So, there's a lot of things that I think we have to look at the bigger picture, not just getting these Bayview kids to the school that they want to go, but it's about what we're all here for, is to keep people off the roads, keep our young people safe, our environment safe. There's a whole bunch of stuff that should be considered as well. Anyway.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, Craig.
Yeah, Russell, I think you've done a good job getting out there, but you're never going to keep everyone happy, mate. And no one, everyone probably expects the bus to go past their house, stop outside their house, and that's never going to happen, and they just need to go overseas and realise they've just got to walk distances to get the buses. And if they're really unhappy, come and spend a week up in Wairoa with no buses, and they'll understand that. They're pretty lucky, really.
Just a correction there, though, Craig. They don't want the bus to stop out in front of their house. They want to stop out in front of their neighbours' house.
You're waiting for the bus stop outside.
Look, can I have a mover to receive that report, unless there's anything burning issue that you want to raise out of that, but a big paper. Thank you, Russell and Richard. That's great work. And that was moved by Councillor Parsons and seconded by Richard. So all those in favour of receiving that report will say aye. Aye. And those against will say no. Now we're up to, we've got some, I've really mucked today up, really. We're running a heck of a long time behind schedule to finish by 12. So we'll just move the clock a little bit. So we've got your report. Thanks, Linda.
I'll keep it snappy-ish.
I will just take it as read, I think.
I'll just highlight a few areas, please, if I might. Just a few on the national updates to draw your attention to. I always find it wonderful to go after your officers because they do a lot of the work for me, so we can skim through NLTP development. But one thing I did want to note that is critical to both PTAs and our RCAs, is that the board is on track to make its decision on funding assistance rates by August of this year. So we will get some certainty then for your planning and investment for the 27-30 on your FAR rates. We did talk about this briefly with respect to the deputations. Thank you to Richard for just highlighting the process. We do now have a consolidated initial list of all projects and programmes for the State Highway Investment Proposal into the NLTF. Just confirming, we've had ongoing and a number of conversations with officers right across all RCAs for input into that. But if there is anything you want to doubly make sure is in there in respect to the State Highway network and how it functions in your district or city, please make sure that your officers are aware and they can link through with NZTA and just double check that it is in there for consideration. We mentioned earlier, thank you again team, just regarding the National Ticketing Solution, or Motu Move as it's now called. Again, thank you for your engagement in that process. We have now confirmed the timeline of rollout right across the whole country. And you'll see there that Hawke's Bay is in Q3 of next year, of 2027. There's a number of moving parts. So again, thank you for council officers' input into this to make sure that that transition is not only smooth for you as the PTA, but also smooth for your customers as well. Maintenance, don't need to dwell on this too far, but just wanting to highlight for governance that we have now fully transitioned away from our network outcomes contracts to the integrated delivery models. There is no change in Hawke's Bay of the supplier there, but that's now all up and running, and we're currently closing those network outcome contracts out. So obviously winter, we've got some full-scale drainage and cyclic maintenance work underway across the network. Highlight here, because there's nothing like car parking or road cones to get people enthusiastic about transport. We have the adoption of the NZTA requirements across all road controlling authorities. Thank you to all of your respective teams for the high level of engagement through that process. Just noting that we do have some very firm deadlines for that adoption for all of your contracts. So by 1 July of 2026, any new contracts that are being issued that are utilising NLTF funds must utilise the NZGTTM. Your existing contracts that are out in play at the moment must be transitioned over by the 1st of July 2027. And I would just note that there are implications on funding if those agreements are not in place by then. Any questions, let me know. We're all at different stages of that, but all on track. One that we didn't want to gloss over to make sure that everyone's aware is the rollout of average speed and safety cameras across the whole network. We do have them coming into the Hawke's Bay region, specifically Central Hawke's Bay on State Highway 2. You may have already, if you're travelling that, noted some of the infrastructure that is in place. They will be operational in October of this year. So please be aware there will be signage on the roads advising motorists of those. International evidence cites and shows that we see a 48% reduction in deaths and serious injuries as a result of their installation. And as part of the risk assessment process, we did do a speed monitor of this area, and over 16% of drivers were consistently speeding on that part of the network. Always important, particularly in Hawke's Bay and for our rural communities, is access to driver licensing and driver testing. We have now expanded our community driver testing officers. These are particularly important for high-risk communities, for rural communities, for those that perhaps struggle to access successfully our standard ways of providing driver testing and training. And we have now in Hawkesbury just contracted another 5 community driver testing officers through Drive HQ and Connect Driver Safety, which is a good expansion of this service.
Just on that, Linda, can you give us the locations of those providers?
So Drive, one's in Central Hawkesbury and the other one, Connect. I couldn't remember which one. Connect's in Central Hawkesbury, and Drive IQ, I'm not sure. I need to come back to you on that one.
Is Wairoa covered?
Wairoa has good access from both the Gisborne and the Hawkesbury region, and we still have the installation or the reinstallation of the testing route there. Yes, we've worked closely on that for a wee while. Just regional update. I won't dwell on these too much. Many of you do attend our updates on the Hawkesbury Expressway roads of national significance. We'll touch on that just very briefly later. Also, the Waikari Gorge. I feel like we've had a fabulous update on all things public transport. We've got a slide later on the Commercial Vehicle Safety Centre and commenced discussions on the State Highway 2 Waipikaro revocation with Central Hawkesbury. So all on track as we stand. Thank you for everyone's engagement in our Hawkesbury Expressway updates. Really appreciate that. I'm sure you're all seeing the breadth of activity that's happening on State Highway 2 at the moment, progressing on track in terms of time and budget. And just a big thank you to all of our partners, consenting partners and road controlling authorities for their support. And also the police too. Thank you. We've got a number of temporary speed limits there, and support for enforcement is really valuable. The Commercial Vehicle Safety Centre is again on track, on budget, and will be operational by the end of this year. It seems to have just sprung up all of a sudden when you drive past there. This provides us not only with an exceptionally accurate way of monitoring compliance and also safety compliance, but too provides us with excellent data and insights onto freight movements across your network. Waikari Gorge realignment. You will be aware of the recent ministerial announcement that we have awarded the design contract to HEB Construction. Just had a hui here in Napier yesterday about that kick-off of the design work. And we are seeing a bit of activity out on site at the moment as they begin their initial investigations. It's really positive to see this project kicking off now. The first part to get underway is that design, and we're just working through the final stages of property acquisition before we can confirm contract for construction. Renewals programme, been a good year overall in the region, but I have to say, like for many, we have been hit by weather in this region, particularly on the full road rebuilds. Just for some reassurance, those sites that were originally planned for rebuild that we have not managed to undertake will be rolled over and done in the coming construction season. The rebuilds are some of the most critical work that we can do on your state highway network. And then lastly on this one, just a bit of a monitor for us all on how we're tracking on our spend across this NLTP period. So just to recap again, light blue line is for the whole period, 24 to 27 of what you've been allocated. Dark blue is spend to date. The hashed line is what would be your forecasted run rate to spend. There are no issues here at all. Everybody is tracking well from the RCA's perspective. You'll note there's a little bit of an extended hash blue line on the emergency works. That's a phasing issue, particularly when it comes to complicated structures on timing. And Post-trek planning, just a note there. Trek's work now that we've completed out at Devil's Elbow, we do still have a few sites out on State Highway 38, but the post-recovery work in Hawke's Bay is pretty much complete now. So we'll begin to see less and less from our Trek team here. They still have work up in Tairāwhiti. Just why that I brought this to the committee's attention, we've seen a lot of activity and improvements happening across State Highway 2 and 5 since Trek have been in place. That activity will begin to subside. It will obviously continue on the expressway and Waikari Gorge. But this is why it is really important through the RLTP for us to highlight the long-term investment that still remains to be required across the state highway network here and ensure that it's featured in the state highway investment proposal. And I think that's it. I'm happy to take questions on these, any of the appendices or any other NZTA business.
Great, thanks Linda. Is there any questions on that broad brush of NZTA activity? Okay,
yeah, nothing that was mentioned today, but there's been ongoing concern and commentary in Central Hawke's Bay about the section of State Highway 2 between Waipukaro Golf Course or that speedy road down to Fraser Road, where there's the fatal crashes and serious injuries in that stretch, a straight flat stretch. And just wondered if there was any view to looking at the safety of that section of road in the future.
I probably wouldn't be able to comment directly off the top of my head, Councillor Taylor, on that, but I'm happy to come back to the committee or to your council directly on if there is anything planned there. Anything that would be planned would be particularly informed by investigations post the serious crashes, so we just need to draw on has that been complete and what the causes of those crashes are. But yeah, I'm happy to come back to you on that.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. It came up in our Network of Networks meeting last week with police and fire fighters who are dealing with those crashes on a regular basis, and it's the psychological trauma on our locals is quite serious.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. Look, we've still got a couple of items to go and running out of time. So can I have a mover to receive the report? Thanks, Craig, and thanks, Michael. All those in favour will say aye. Aye. It's passed. We'll now move on to RoadSafe, is it? That's the one.
Cool. Through the chair, I'll provide a brief summary of this paper, noting that we are on a bit of a tight time frame. So this paper really just gives a high-level overview of the activities of our road safety team over the last 3 months. Talks about some of the statistics that have come out of their work with the New Zealand Police as part of the checkpoints. So you'll see there just at point 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. So the key issues that they have noted in the statistics as part of those checkpoints is quite a significant observance of drivers on phones, and also still quite a significant number of people that are not wearing seatbelts. So that's kind of a key target area for our road safe team, is trying to educate people around the importance of not driving distracted. I won't go into all the detail in terms of the activities across the region, but the team has been working within all the 4 TA's regions, so CHB, Wairara, Napier and Hastings, and there's a good highlight there from the Mohaka fatigue stop which took place over Easter, so the 3rd of April. You can see the team there providing free coffee for at the fatigue stop. The other point I'll highlight is just the work that the team has been undertaking in delivering the in-school road expo. So historically they used to run a kind of a week-long expo at the arena in Napier, and the students will be bussed into the expos to kind of highlight all the road safety risks and the road safety education that they undertake. Following kind of a change in the funding structure as part of the current funding round, they now look to kind of work quite closely with the schools to actually deliver them within the schools and using the schools facilities. So as Councillor Taylor here is aware, we delivered the Road Safety Expo down at Central Hawke's Bay College in April, which was very, very well received. A number of us, both Russ and I, were there to support the team, and a number of members from the New Zealand Police within the area. And we also had NZTA representatives, which was very helpful. Last month, we also ran an expo at St John's College, so the Boys' College in Hastings, which was, again, very well received. And later this month, so it's June now, later this month we'll be attending Napier Boys High School, which will be also a really good opportunity to highlight the risks. So I won't go into too much more detail, but that's really a high-level summary. You can see some pictures there from us attending the CHB Expo in April, and really the focus for the next 3 months is just continuing to deliver that work program going forward. One other point, just while I've got the committee's attention, is so the road safety team is funded on a 3-yearly basis. So we, Russell and I, send out some letters to officers within each of the councils, just to kind of remind them about the importance of budgeting for RoadSafe as part of the long-term planning process.
Great, thank you, Richard. Angela, any comment from NZ Police around RoadSafe?
Yeah, absolutely. RoadSafe Hawke's Bay is one of our key partners, like physically being out on the roads, doing all the activities together. I can't emphasise more than it's already been said in previous to see presentations, the value of those full-day Youth Expo run over a week, and I'm really disappointed that there's not funding there for that, because that is bang for buck. You hit 2,000 high school age students that are about to be driving or already driving is a really good way to influence. So it's a big investment in our people's time to do the school by school thing. So it costs us a lot more, takes us away from doing other business. Really good each time, but it's just not bang for buck for us. So I've got school community officers heavily involved in that, and like Central Hawke's Bay, the local staff down there, really good. But our impairment team that are also really heavily involved in that need to be delivering impairment targets and things as well. So it's sort of stretching our resources a lot thinner, and we're getting feedback that it's really well received individually at each school, but the actual resource required to do that model is more for police. It's a bigger drain on our resource, although you get fantastic engagement. So if you're looking at measures, bang for buck, Linda, before you mentioned doing a week investment, pay the 60,000, whatever it is, for a venue, buses on, all that, be a lot simpler model, personally, from my perspective, because it's very hard to roll out things like roadside drug testing is a new thing we're doing now, and also have the team that are managing that being in the schools. It's stretching our staff really, really thin to participate, but absolute respect for the RoadSafe team that get involved and come along and do joint checkpoints. I mean, just a fabulous team. I'd like to see more of that, but it's very hard to deliver on everything, and I guess spreading ourselves thin by doing these individual approach. So just disappointed that the Minister hasn't seen the light that, they're investing in our young people is where it's at from prevention. I mean, we will not enforce our way out of death and serious injury on our roads. It's got to be at the front end with the young people that are getting behind the wheel. I've got 2 teenagers myself that are now both on full licences, and they're out on the road. So I care a lot about what our young people learn and how they're mentored. And absolutely thank the RoadSafe team for everything they do. Really brilliant. I've been involved in quite a few of the deployments that they've come along to as well. So I really see the energy and the passion they bring. And everyone here in this room probably has a connection to someone who has lost their life on the road, which gives you all the more reason to do what we do. So that practical arm of road safety with RoadSafe team, absolutely amazing. I'd love to see them expanded. I could go on forever, but honestly, they are incredible, and just their passions, It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, the photos, you know, of the fatigue stop on State Highway 5 and all the positive comments we got. So that's really flipped it, you know. You're not doing an enforcement approach. We're not breath testing people, giving them fines for all the things that are wrong with their cars and stuff. You're actually having a conversation about fatigue, about where they've come from, their journey. They're making positive connections with police and other agencies. We could see other people involved in those fatigue stops to, you know, tourism. There's lots of benefits we could do, and some of that prevention space. So it'd be lovely to have more funding for that kind of activity. That's all I've got to say.
Great, thanks, Angela. Councillor Parsons, you had
I'd like to totally support what you've just said. I was very moved by the presentation that we had from RoadSafe last time we were together. So moved that I decided to go out, as I was invited to, on one of the police checkpoints. And to say I was blown away would be the massive understatement of the century. I've looked at the stats that were provided in this paper, and I think they're wrong. The stats are there because you wouldn't have time to, and police don't have time to catch all the bad people. And I did my own statistics and my own research, and just by watching, as we were the spotters, I reckon 98% of the cars were speeding, and that was 9 o'clock in the morning. Easily, but the police can't catch them all. So I think those stats, and probably what I'm going to ask you all to do, I'm going to really beg that you all go out there and do what I did. It only is an hour of your time, and because we're sitting on the Transport Committee, we should all be doing it. I've challenged our MP, who was the Transport Manager. She's not been, so she should have been the first one to put up her hand. So don't go through RoadSafe, come through me, because I'd like to see who takes me up on the offer. But we should absolutely all be going out and spending an hour with the RoadSafe team. In regards to funding, it should be the number one priority that we support that plea for funding. When you look at how many people die on the roads, it's over 400 people a year in New Zealand. I've done a little bit of research, and they reckon it's 15 million per death. That's getting into the $1 billion that we're wasting. And I mean, I'm not even going to talk about the tragedy of losing someone. I've got teenagers on the road myself, which, you know, they're the ones that'll teach us, because you get to them young enough. They are the ones that will teach us how to be safer on the roads. So I just think if it's spending us billions in road deaths, take a portion of that money and put it into education, and there's your bang for your buck. There's no way RoadSafe should have had any funding cut. In fact, they should have their funding tripled, quadrupled, whatever. But as you can see, I'm their champion now, because I went out and spent some time and saw for myself how bloody scary it is out on those roads. And as the girls at RoadSafe will tell you, everybody should be taking responsibility. I've had this argument with my husband, because he thinks it's up to the cops to give us fines to change our behaviour. It's up to us to change our behaviour, not police to tell us to slow down. Loving that the cameras are coming to Hawke's Bay, and the stats that you just shared, Linda, are phenomenal. I was silently clapping, so thank you, that's amazing. So there you go, I'll get off my pedestal now, but if I can champion the RoadSafe team, you know I've got their backs, and I will continue.
Thank you, Councillor Parsons, and I'll look forward to the budget debate when we Councillor
you bet,
the table. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, just to all of that. That was, it's nice to go out with the team. Unfortunately, the CHB fatigue stop was cancelled due to bad weather, so I didn't get to take part. But I did go to CHB College and spent on one of the displays with a young police officer who's, I apparently got his name wrong all morning, so I won't even try to remember what it is now. It was really great. CHB District Council had 2 councillors and 3 staff members there at least, and the feedback from that was amazing. Sad sideways comment to that is that Central Hawke's Bay had a program running through CHB College with the goal of getting every eligible student with a full licence before they left school. And their funding has now been cut, which is for that program, which is really sad when you see the success that we've had in that area. So with that said, just tautoko, the support for RoadSafe.
Any other comments, Richard?
Yeah, well, seeing everyone else is jumping on that one, I'll jump on that one as well. I actually used to be tied up with the Youth Alcohol Expo back in the day when we had New Zealand Blood Service operating out of here, and the week-long program highly effective. So if our partners are telling us it's a better format, maybe it just needs looking at and reconsidering.
Thank you for that. Any other comments around the table? Craig?
Yes, Craig. Just interesting to hear that the 5-day RoadSafe week-long session at Pettigrew Green Arena, you think that was of good value, and if it's only just funding that's stopping it, then maybe some sort of investigation is looking into it, and if it's of that importance and value and produces, then if funding's the argument, then the argument's funding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think we've got a mover in Councillor Parsons, seconded by Councillor Taylor, to receive the report. Unless there are any other comments, I'll put that recommendation to receive the report. All those say aye. Aye. That's carried. Now we're up to, now we're running behind time. I'm going over 2 hours. Are you quite comfortable just to rattle through this and finish? And then we're done for the day. Are you okay with that, to carry on? So we're up to 5.6. That's a quick update from around the room. Some of us got to say. So we'll start off with the TA representatives, if you can give your perspectives. And if you can keep in mind my challenge to find a home, the best home we can for the Regional Transport Committee, and how we might progress that. I'd be interested in your feedback on that. Craig, can I start with you?
Yeah, can I just pass mine on to Matt? He might probably go to articulate a lot better than me.
Righto, Matt, you're on.
Yeah, this is a hospital pass that I got given on the way down here. But pleased to say that the state highways and the works on the state highway are really good. There have been a few traffic management issues that I'll talk to Linda separately about. In fact, I was sweating quite profusely the other day because there was a queue just around the corner, and I knew I had a truck coming flat out behind me, and there was no signage or any warning. But that's a separate issue. But on the positive side, the works have all been really good. State Highway 38 still remains a little bit of an issue for Wairoa. But as mentioned earlier, we're on track with our district land transport planning and feeding that into the regional planning. A draft of that was considered by council last Tuesday. So we're on track with all of that, and I'll get Hera to our transport manager to feed that into the regional network. As we heard from the Forestry Association representatives, forestry remains a big issue, and the effect of forestry on the roads in Wairoa, so that's a real focus in our transport planning. But other than that, the roads and the winter have been quite kind to the state highway network, at least.
Thank you, Matt. That's great. We're moving to Richard now.
Yeah, I'm going to take Craig's lead and defer to our council officer.
Hastings is all set to go with you.
Kia ora, I'm Connie, I'm Matt Nick, City Council. It's actually my last day of work today, so come Josh. I'll be back in 12 months. Just
okay. Busy.
Yeah, really exciting. So for the Napier update on transport activity, we've got a few programs running at the moment. We've got development of our AMP, so that's more of our maintenance and capital program for that short sprint of 3 years, looking out 10 years. We'll review it. And then we've got a minor capital improvement program, so that's just a few small capital improvements across the city, largely in our retaining walls on Napier Hill, just as a resilience piece of work. And we're also working on our 30-year transport strategy, which is really exciting. We don't have an endorsed strategy at the moment. We're about halfway through that, so we're looking at finalising that around August time. Some of the really interesting parts coming out at the moment are freight is really important, keeping it really efficient through Napier. We've got the port there, the airport, and we connect to all other districts. So keeping mainly that Hastings, Napier, and then State Highway reliance through Napier, and how do we keep those networks really functioning to a high performance. And then the other part to that is Napier being a resilient area, not island if there's no emergency. So those are the emerging key themes, but when it's finalised, we'll definitely, if the committee's interested, bring back what the Napier transport strategy looks like.
Thank you very much, Connie. That's useful. Michael.
Yep, thank you, Chair. So our world is still bridges, culverts, and roads and slip repairs. So we're about halfway through the $650 million program, of which Hastings District Council's share is $150 million. So just some highlights, really. We've completed 3 bridges, Kiruru, Montepiro, and Otao Puketapu. And at the moment, there's under construction 2, Rissington and Dartmoor. In design, there's 6, including Redcliffe, and the tender for that is going to go live in October 2026. Awaiting funding is 2, the Brookfields Bridge and the Alice Wallace. People may be interested to know in terms of slip repairs. There were 206 slips, 92 have been completed. There's 18 under construction, and the balance are in design or awaiting funding. So, and the other item, just before I close, is bridge and culvert repairs. So 29 of those have been completed, and in construction there's 1 site and 3 under design. So overall, business as usual, and cyclone recovery all going, making good, strong progress.
Thank you for that. It's been quite a journey over the last few years, and now we've just got to pay the bills. Kate, can you help us out with Central Hawke's Bay?
Yeah, not with the bill, but our AMP is proceeding with urgency, so aligning with all the required processes and inputs from Reg and NZTA. Our cyclone recovery work also continues. A number of projects planned to finish in June, with 4 projects planned for completion in the next financial year. We've got areas, particularly sort of coastal roads, that keep getting hit by storms. So we've got the 3 pockets of pre-cyclone, cyclone, and ongoing, which makes for interesting funding conversations and pots of money, and which contractor does what, I think, in my head at least. Sure, Sean's got it all sorted. Council's close to reaching a decision on 3 significantly damaged bridges from the cyclone. That decision is expected in early July. You may have seen some media coverage of that recently. Interesting to note that not all of the information that was presented in those media reports was correct. I'll leave it at that. We're currently completing an economic assessment on the options available for Patangata Bridge, which is a huge... when that was down after the cyclone, there's over an hour detour there, particularly for those coastal and farming communities. So the future of Patangata Bridge is very important to us. And in that response, Mayor Will has taken a bit of a campaign to Wellington and just on that overall cost of roading infrastructure. And I think that's something the other, TAs could not get on board with. We're all doing it, but the cost of bridges, the cost of the red tape, the cost of everything to do with it, there must be ways of making that system cheaper. There has to be ways of not us all not spending these millions and millions of dollars over and over again on different bridges in different parts of the region. We have 2 contracts left to procure, and the process is well underway to secure a supplier for our pavement marketing services and minor structural component replacements. Both of these will be released to the market soon. And we wish to continue working with NZTA on making the roundabout on State Highway 2 in Waipawa permanent. That was part of the Streets for People, and it's been so well received, particularly by the local trucking firms, and I use it all the time, and I can't remember the highway there without it now. So I'd love to make that permanent, and also follow up and complete the revocation process for Ruatanwha Street in Waipokoro. So looking forward to those 2 things, making progress.
Excellent,
Yeah.
thanks for that, Kate, much appreciated. And we'll quickly finish the session off with a commentary from the advisory members. And say again? I will pass those together at the end.
Okay, yeah.
Matt, can you help us out with what your world looks like?
Yeah, nothing, I guess, different from organisation-wise, but I convinced it's good to hear about the return on investment, but I think we need to think of return on investment beyond roads as well in terms of best bang for buck. Talking about safety, there's huge bang for buck, and again, coming back to active transport, it's about Hastings study was about 11 to 1, so you can't really get much better than that. Active transport about $9 per kilometre in terms of cost saving, often through health, and biking about $5 per kilometre. Someone's biked as well. So I think we've obviously got limitations in the GPS, but when we take a return on investment, we think all options and modes, not just return on investment for roads.
Right, thanks, Matt. Angela, just had a question arises in terms of behaviour on the road. What's it look like from your perspective? With those behaviour stats going on?
Yeah, I couldn't just give you stats on behaviours, I guess, because we deliver the road placing investment program, which is largely those big known factors. We're targeting open road speed, so 80 k's and above. Those roads, the roads that we're delivering speed enforcement on is our priority for death and serious injury. So that's sort of our main focus, because obviously the faster the impact of a crash, the more likely people will die. So we focus very heavily on open road speed enforcement as sort of the highest priority within road policing world anyway. Obviously a distraction, cell phone or other things people do in the car, other than look out the window at what's going on outside. You'd be surprised. But as demonstrated by the various different spotting operations and things, that's pretty out the gate as far as people not paying attention while they're driving. Fatigue is also a big factor. Many other things. The new thing we are actually doing around driver behaviour is rolling out the roadside drug testing. So that started in December last year in Wellington. It's been a phased rollout across the country in our Eastern District, so Hawke's Bay and Te Rāwhiti. We're right amongst the middle of the training our staff at the moment and rolling that out. So we are actually live delivering that now. I did 3 tests earlier this week myself after having done the training. So one of those was at a crash. So we are doing the roadside drug test right on my phone here, I think. Yeah, that's a little blue and white test that you might become familiar with if you get stopped roadside. And you might be asked to lick this and wait for a few minutes and
you
carry on. But that's generating a lot of interest for us. So yeah, the discussions we're having while we're waiting for the process to take effect with drivers as recently as the last couple of weeks locally is quite exciting, and that having the conversations with people about what they're doing before they're driving, obviously ingesting certain things. So yeah, it's a fascinating world, to be fair. So driver behaviour around not only normally alcohol testing, but now drug testing is a big change for us. We're delivering that, and obviously that'll start impacting on heavy motor vehicle drivers, as well as start delivering that across the board anywhere, anytime. So yeah, we'll start to see the results of that. We've sort of the count really starts from 1 July for a delivery target that we have around that across the country. So we're just making sure our staff are trained and know how to use the equipment and have you. Nothing particular around your question, sorry, but
no, it's okay.
Our focus very much at the minute about rolling out the drug testing. Yep.
Thank you. Craig.
Right, Craig from the AA. First of all, congratulations everyone involved in four-laning of the expressway. It's great to see that progressing. Plus the development of the Pakawai Links grade separation as a stage 2. I started work on the expressway in the 1960s, so it's going to be good to see it finally get built and almost its original design. So that's very pleasing and good to see Waikari Gorge progressing. I note that stage 1 is approved. Whether there's a whole point to then approve funding, that's the only concern. That's something we'll no doubt hear about. AA is deadly serious about safety, so the whole issue that's come up about the RoadSafe and the Road Safety Week that used to be run, I'd like to talk to the RoadSafe people about that as well. And in terms of those ways of various funding, ironically, you got 2 board members of Rodney Green Arena sitting here as a venue, so...
I thought there was going to be an impromptu vote just before, actually.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Craig. And last but not least, Stuart, can you give us an update from your world, please?
Sure, through the chair. Stuart White, representing the Māori Standing Committee for the Regional Council, which met for the first time this year on Wednesday. Just to applaud the relationship that the Māori Standing Committee has within the Regional Council. That particular committee has been in place now for 36 years. It's the longest standing Māori committee of any council of anywhere in the country. So just want to commend all of everyone sitting here and our predecessors for ensuring that particular forum has had a voice for a long time, and I'm sure it's been well received. Just an acknowledgement to Angela and the police and to Whatu Order and a number of other things. I think one of the substances that we won't be picking up and testing anymore is nitrous oxide. So, we let out a community-led initiative, which I think about 3 weeks ago led in a law change which stops the importing of nitrous oxide canisters into the country, which started out of this region. So that's a really big win for us. Hopefully it makes our road users a bit safer with our young people not using that substance on the roads. And finally, at our meeting on Wednesday, the Māori Committee reappointed Mike Paku and Katarina Kawana as our co-chairs for the next term. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Stuart. Look,
Comment, please.
You would like comment?
Yes, just to correct, sorry, Craig, it's perhaps not clear, although I thought it was on the slide with regards to the Waikari Gorge. The only reason that the construction contract hasn't been awarded is due to property, not funding. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Cheers. Look, I did avert my gaze from the screen, Daniel. Do you want to comment? Have you got give us a comment here?
You can hear me okay?
Yes, indeed. Can everyone hear?
Yep. Okay. So for rail work in Hawke's Bay, I think the last one of these, I was saying we were starting that night on the Waitangi Bridge to do some of the span removals and pier removals and such. So that all went well over that weekend, the block of line. So with that piece of work, the longer spans and several piers, a couple of piers removed. We've also completed doing the riverbed lowering under the Waitangi Bridge at Awatoto. So that's actually the last piece of the Trek rail works. So with that, Q Rail's Cyclone Gabriel response is finished between Napier and Palmerston. So yeah, we're really pleased with that and the performance of the Trek Alliance and working in another alliance with NZTA has been great. So that chapter is closed for us. There's also been some positive announcements about rail funding. You might have seen in the news slightly over $1 billion over the course of the 3 financial years from mid-2027 to equivalent in 2030. So that's just under 360 million a year. which is significant for rail. You can compare it to other programs of workers that needs to be spread across the whole of the national network, excluding the two metropolitan areas, Wellington and Auckland. Don't have a plan as to what specific investments that includes for Palmerston North and Napier, but there will be ongoing renewals of sleepers, rail, those sort of very rail specific works that'll keep the line open. So that those are the only updates I had.
Great, thank you so much, Daniel. Very much appreciated. Look, we need to close this off. Can I have a mover to receive both item 5.6 and 5.7, the verbal reports? Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Kate. All those in favour will say aye.
Aye.
Those against will say no, and that's carried. So my apologies for running 30 minutes late on you. We've got lunch?
Yep.
Yes, we do have lunch, so that's the compensation you have. And so thank you so much for your attendance today. A lot involved there. Our next meeting is when, September?
Next quarter.
Yeah. Next quarter meeting in September. What I think we might do though is circulate a bit of a draft ideas, if you like, ideas only, around the future of the Transport Committee. And if you can turn your minds to that and give some feedback. I think there's a bottom line around, if you like, ensuring we've got that local input, baked into whatever it is, and then we're constantly feeding out. But there will be a government requirement to have, or there is a government requirement to have a regional transport committee, and where it sits is going to be an interesting play out of this whole process. So, look, I encourage you to turn your minds to it, consult with your colleagues and say, what's the best fit? How do we make this thing work going forward? And we're finally, I wonder whether I can call on Stuart again to do a bit of a closing. Would you mind doing that for us? We've got the document in front, the sheet in front of you for a closing here, and then we'll go and have lunch.
Let us pray. Ka mutu a mātou mahi, o tēnei wā, nā ki tia mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ai o ki te aorangi, tihei moriora. Kia ora.
Thanks. We've come to the end of it. Thank you so much.